So, The Tomorrow War is a brand new movie directed by Chris McKay, and it stars Chris Pratt, Yvonne Strahovski, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but oh well, J.K. Simmons, Betty Gilpin, Sam Richardson, and it's about this war that's taking place like 30 years from now, and basically they come back to present day to say, hey, we need people to fight in this war against these creatures that are basically taking over the entire world. There's only about 500,000 of us left on Earth, and we need people to come forward in time to help defeat these things once and for all. And when I heard about this movie, I was not really looking forward to it. It's not like the plot of it really sounded bad or like the cast sounded bad. It just didn't really sound that interesting to me. And the trailer when I first saw it, it just made me think that it just looked like it was borrowing from a lot of science fiction. Like pretty much every type of sci-fi movie out there, it was put into that movie. Like it looked like it tried to be like a mismatch of things that just didn't really work. And after watching this movie, yeah, that's kind of what I got out of it. There was a lot of things that worked. A lot of things that worked I thought were really good, and I didn't expect. But there were a lot of things about this movie that I just did not care for. So let's start off with the good. The performances for the most part are pretty good. Like Chris Pratt is really good as the main character throughout this entire movie. His action scenes are really good. His dramatic scenes are really good. And Yvonne Strahovski is this general in the future, and you'll see like her connection with Chris Pratt later on in the movie. And I thought that worked really well for the most part. I thought their dynamic was really good throughout the entire movie. Also, J.K. Simmons surprised me. I thought he was really good in this small. It's a bit of a small role, but it's impactful enough. And I do think the visual style overall is very nice as well. I do think it's very creative. I do like the design of these creatures. It's definitely very interesting. And this movie has a lot of twists, like a lot of twists I honestly just didn't see coming, and I thought, yeah, it kind of worked. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of what you're going for. And it's kind of obvious, but I thought it was effective enough to go, I'll buy it, sure, why not? And as much as I've said, like, all the sci-fi stuff that was just kind of thrown in there, it surprisingly does work for the most part. I feel like the sci-fi homages kind of did work to, like, kind of, like, be a tribute to science fiction in general, rather than, like, hey, let's just throw it in there and see what works. And like it definitely works better as a movie that like pays homage and does its own thing, rather than something that's just, hey, let's put all this stuff in a blender and just see what works and what comes out of it. And as much as that movie does do that successfully, it does admittedly try to do too much. The movie is 2 hours and 18 minutes long, which I think is way too long for a movie like this, to be honest. Tries to do too much, not really with all the sci-fi stuff, but like it tries so hard to like do these family issues. It tries so hard to do all this war stuff. Tries to do a lot with like conspiracies, and there's like one subplot involving Betty Gilpin's character, who is unfortunately underused throughout this entire movie. And like she has this whole subplot where she's like helping these soldiers with PTSD. It's like, oh, that could be really interesting, kind of go from that angle. Oh, you're not going to do any more with it after that one scene? Well, okay then. Why would you do that then, if you weren't going to really develop it? I don't know. And meanwhile, the plots, it takes a lot to really, like, it takes a lot for this plot to be, I'm trying to word this right, but basically, this movie's ridiculous. This movie's really ridiculous. And it's one of those movies where you could just sit down and watch it and just pick apart every tiny thing possible. Like, they mention, like, minor spoiler if you haven't seen it yet. It's not really a big spoiler, but they mention that most of the people who go into this war just die. Like, 20% of the people who actually go into this war survive. And yet, when they go into the future, they are literally lifted up into the wormhole, and then they're literally dropped, and it doesn't matter where they drop, they just land. A lot of them die. It's like, maybe people wouldn't die if you had like a special place where people could land safely and they wouldn't die. Like, why? What is the point of that? For a really cool action scene? It's not really cool if I'm just thinking of all the dead people that are just dying for no reason. It's hard to care for these people that are just dying randomly. Like, again, it's a movie that you could really pick apart. And there's a part of me that really wanted to pick this movie apart. And yeah, for someone who has a cynical mind like me, who just like, who can pick apart movies that I don't really care for, but like I try not to criticize plot holes in movies in general. Weird conundrum, but whatever. This movie does have some good moments, some really good good performances, good visuals, definitely a lot of twists and turns that worked. Maybe if they actually thought it through at times, maybe it would have worked better as a movie. Also, cut that time. Like, make it like just under 2 hours. Would have been fine, but no. We had to make this almost 2.5 hours. Why? Just why? So I'll give the Tomorrow War, I'll be kind of nice to it. I'll give it 2.5 out of 4 stars. Stream it. It's definitely kind of worth a watch, especially if you like these types of movies. But just turn your brain off. It's one of the better movies where you can just turn your brain off and enjoy. So, what did you think of the Tomorrow War? Also, what is your favorite sci-fi movie the last few years? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.